Hey there, this is Chase Jackson, Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Energy Easy, with another short video in our video series on the contentious topic of climate change. And the short video that we are presenting today is on the subject of the father of cool. When you think of the father of cool, who comes to mind? Miles Davis? James Brown? No, my friend. Think harder. Here he is. Is this who you guessed? Style points for you, my friend. The father of cool would be Dr. Willis Carrier, the inventor of the air conditioner. Carrier was born in 1876 on a farm in upstate New York. As a young child, he liked to spend time by himself, working on his imagination and inventing clever things for himself to play with. His big moment that really kind of defined him as a child was when he was learning fractions with his mom. His mom had him bring an apple upstairs and had him cut it into halves, quarters, and eighths to teach her son fractions. And while he did learn fractions out of this, the kind of long-term big idea that Willis received at that moment is that I can solve problems. And if there's a problem that I cannot solve, I can break it down into smaller problems and solve those. And through baby steps, solving these smaller problems will lead to a big solution to a problem. So Carrier grew up in 1876 in upstate New York. He received a scholarship to the prestigious Cornell University, where he majored in engineering. Upon graduation, he got a job at a Buffalo Forge company, which was a heating company in New York. And while there, the management of Buffalo Forge noticed his intensity and ingenuity and placed him in charge of the R&D department. And as he was working there, they received a request from a customer, a printing company in New York, that was having their papers bleed because of the changing temperature in their factory. On days it would get too hot, the print would bleed and they would be unable to sell their product. So this is the problem that had to be solved. How can we create a piece of climate control equipment that will allow this printing company in New York to be able to save their inventory and print all their papers? Carrier got to work. Dr. Carrier had his flash of genius moment when waiting for a train on a dark and foggy, stormy night in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. As he was waiting for the train, he kept thinking over and over the relationship between temperature and humidity. And when that train arrived is when he had his flash of genius moment. And he was able to put together the connection of temperature and humidity and dew point. And at that moment at that train station, in that foggy night in Pittsburgh, is where the idea of the air conditioner was born. The air conditioner is the process of moving air to more favorable conditions. And while that sounds so easy, Dr. Carrier was the first person to really define that. And as we move to the next slide in this video, I want to ask you, the listener, what is your flash of genius moment? Have you had it yet? I'm at the young, humble age of 29, and I feel like I have not reached my flash of genius moment yet. But from the way this video is going so far, I really think this might be it. Air conditioning is the process of moving air to more favorable conditions. And Willis Carrier's invention had gigantic effects on the United States of America, whether it is economically, socially, or culturally. When you think of economically, the invention of the air conditioner had monumental benefits to all different kinds of industries, whether it is printing, apparel, textiles, film, meat packing, pharmaceuticals, you name it. There's dozens upon dozens of industries that receive dramatic benefits and an improvement of their processes and applications through the invention of the air conditioner. You also think about how many Americans started to migrate to the South because the invention of this piece of equipment allowed them to really live a much more pleasurable life. They could go out and they could enjoy time outside, and then they could go back into a climate-controlled environment, whether it was at work or at home, and live a more happy and pleasurable existence. So the invention of the air conditioner had huge effects on the kind of the growth of the United States of America and the American people. And as the years went by, it also had a huge effect in terms of United States in helping prepare for World War II and get the necessary equipment out into the battlefield. This required tons of factories all over the place, and Carrier's invention of the air conditioner really helped us win the war as well. So it is also amazing to think about how Willis Carrier's invention really changed architectural design. Before climate control equipment, it was not possible to have a large building encompassed by windows, right? Because of temperature. And this really makes me think of the skyscraper. The skyscraper is much more than just a commercial office building. Major cities around the world really use their skyscrapers and their skylines to kind of show their economic power and show the economic wealth of that city. So I now ask you, the listener, is there a skyline that stands out to you? New York City, New York? Tokyo, Japan? Abu Dhabi? So Willis Carrier, who passed away in the early 1950s, really had a lasting legacy that is still going on today globally. So Carrier Corporation, which he started in Carrier Engineering Corporation, which he started in 1915, is now the largest heating, ventilation, and air conditioning company in the world. And they are still innovating and are technological leaders in terms of climate control equipment globally. So this kind of foundation of innovation and ideas and brilliant thinking that Willis Carrier started with this engineering corporation 100 years ago are still going strong. A couple examples of the really cool things that Carrier Corporation has recently developed are electric reefers, which they call the Vector series. These are reefers that do not need diesel to keep their product at a certain temperature. They're allowed to use electricity. And also, all climate control equipment is centered around a refrigeration loop where chemical refrigerant circles back and forth between heat and gas. And Carrier Corporation has recently developed an all-natural refrigerant line, which has great benefits to the environment, which we will talk about in our concluding slide. But to really kind of showcase the legacy of Willis Carrier is that this guy was really just an inspirational, an amazing man. Time magazine voted him one of the most important inventors of our century, and just really imagine life without climate control equipment. It's a really tough thing to do. It's something that I'm grateful for. Are you? So, in conclusion, everybody wants to stay cool. And the ironic part of that is that it is really starting to heat up the Earth as the Earth gets warmer, and as more and more people in warmer countries around the world get higher incomes, they're going to be using more and more air conditioning. And air conditioning, while it is beautiful in terms of keeping our body at a certain temperature and keeping us comfortable, it has a dramatic effect on how much carbon goes into the atmosphere, because air conditioning requires a lot of energy, a lot of electricity. And some things to think about moving forward. Up until this point, the United States and Americans use more air conditioning annually than the rest of the world combined. But that is changing. China is going to pass us in terms of air conditioning use by 2020. So as we move forward, just in terms of the contentious topic of climate change, this is just a really interesting thing to think about, because as Americans, we can tell other places that they should reduce their energy and save the planet, but we have used so much more energy than they have up to this point. Do we really have any feet to stand on? So, Willis Carrier, great man, keeping the Earth cool. Now the Earth's getting hot. What are we going to do next? Look forward to seeing you on our next climate control series. Father Cool, Willis Carrier.